My name is Imran and I work at Cyberis as a cybersecurity consultant. So I've been talking about quantum computers and quantum cryptography. So the talk was basically about how quantum computers are going to drive a change in our industry cryptographically, moving from classical systems to either quantum-based cryptography or classical quantum-resistant cryptography. In both cases, we will not be using the cryptographic standards we're using today. So I wanted to talk about a paradigm in how to test these new standards and what types of remediation advice you might offer clients who may be using or looking to start using such systems as quantum computers become more powerful and jeopardize our current standards. The difference between current computing and quantum computing comes down to the difference in ability for quantum computers to solve problems that classical computers have found traditionally very difficult. They're not going to offer a broad spectrum advantage in every field. You're not going to have quantum game consoles, well, at least it's very unlikely, and you're not going to have your own Windows queue, for example. It's going to offer massive performance gains in very specific areas. Unfortunately, some of these areas are in mathematical computations that we've traditionally used to secure communication. They're going to offer massive performance gains in calculating those problems. And in doing so, it will jeopardize the security of those protocols. Classic computers find it very difficult to factor large numbers. So the RSA algorithm has leveraged this to say, here's a massive number, find its prime factors, and use that as a key for securing communication. With quantum computers, that will no longer be possible because RSA will say, here's a massive number, find the prime factors, and quantum computer will be like, sure, here they are, and it will steal the key. I wouldn't say it's something that is immediately a risk. It's something we need to be thinking about as quantum computers become more and more powerful. It's something that NCSC, for example, have said will become more relevant, cryptographically relevant, in fact, within the next decade. And so leaving it to the last minute to jump ship and move to a new standard is a recipe for disaster. We need to start thinking about how we can protect ourselves in that coming time and slowly start transitioning towards those protocols and testing those protocols to make sure once we've transitioned, we're not leaving ourselves vulnerable in ways we haven't foreseen yet. Quantum cryptography leverages, as opposed to complex mathematical problems which are used in classical cryptography, quantum cryptography leverages the unique properties of quantum physics. It uses and exploits fundamental quirks within our universe, within the physics of the everyday world around us. And in doing so, it bakes in security that can't traditionally be cracked with computing power. It's hard-coded into the universe. It's not something you can figure out. These would be things like no cloning theorem, meaning that it would be impossible to copy an unknown quantum state that could be used in key generation. Or it could be quantum superposition, which is used to allow for massive amounts of data to be stored on relatively less qubits than it would take traditional computers' bits to store that information. So in leveraging these unique physical properties, we're giving ourselves inherent security that is fundamentally different to the classical security we are used to. I believe ID Quantica has a QKD box, and I believe for random number generation, which is a huge part of cryptography, I think it's Quintessence Labs are selling a truly random number generator. So these are things that can be bought right now. I believe for the QKD boxes, it's something along the lines of £82,000 for the Cyberis 3 system. But that's not to say it's not being actively purchased and actively used as people are trying to mitigate future risks. I'd say there's still time. I'd say if we start dealing with it now, we're dealing with it in just the right amount of time. We're not leaving it too late. This is the sensible time to start looking at how to solve these problems and how to transition. We're in the transitory period, so we should be thinking about how to properly transition. We're not too late, but if we leave it for much longer, we may be at risk of becoming too late. If I had one bit of advice, it would be don't be scared about the quantumness of this all. If you're a penetration tester, stick to what you know, which is how to break systems, which is how to test systems and provide assurance to the clients and companies that you work for. You can look past the heavy theories that build these systems to the components themselves, they will have technical limitations. There will be imperfections in the way we have applied these sound theoretical principles to a physical medium. If we can find ways to exploit those imperfections, we can break these protocols. And if we can find ways to mitigate such exploitations, we can offer remediation advice.